Hi, you're watching a very special session of Agenda AWANI recorded right here at the World Economic Forum in Davos. While top elite leaders of powerful nations talk about security, more of the national aspect and the army and the military, I want to talk about security for the grassroots, security for the people, security for the many of us who not in the top echelon, but every day slaving away at our jobs and tasks just to feed our family and give ourselves a better chance in the world. I hope I've made a good intro because right in front of me is J.Jennings, General Secretary of UNI Global Union. When I was Googling him and reading articles, I practically get the impression this is the superhero, Superman of workers' rights and union all over the world. Because as General Secretary of UNI Global Union, look at the numbers. 20 million members in 150 nations and 900 unions, including he's been to Malaysia and he knows boleh. So boleh kita bercakap.
Boleh.
We can
Malaysia
speak.
boleh.
Malaysia boleh.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the invitation. I've never been called Superman before. Somebody said I resembled more Clark Kent than Superman.
Okay.
But you're right. The great thing is we managed to globalize this trade union movement, and we are not isolationist. We believe in bringing people together to try and find common solutions, to try and protect human rights, and to do all the things that you mentioned about never forgetting who is really delivering the wealth for others, and it's the working man. I know the CEOs here like to present themselves as kind of geniuses, that they have some sort of magical power, but at the end of the day, there are 3.2 billion working people in this world, and they are the ones that make this economy tick.
Yes.
So I have a global view, global solidarity, stronger together, and then Mr. Trump comes in to close the week. The message that he brought was a 20th century message.
Okay.
This was a message from the old economy.
Okay.
This is a message from the Gilded Age of America, when we had the first generation of plutocrats and titans who were strutting their stuff a century ago and before in the United States
like
of,
the Rockefellers
America.
Of the world.
So you know this was the Gilded Age. This was a speech for the Gilded Age. Not once did he mention digital. Not once did he mention infrastructure.
Correct.
Not once did he mention the environment.
Yes.
For him, if the stock market's working, everything is going fine. Now, and so it was a salesman's pitch about his successes. It is clear he also mentioned, he did recognize working people. Yes. And he did try to remind people of his kind of respect for them. But basically, we're all familiar with the trickle-down theory. This was trickle-down economics on amphetamines.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
This was a boost for the trickle-down theory, which we can talk about in the conversation.
Okay. Well, we Malaysians are quite moderate on average, but we are very passionate about stories, narratives, and you have a very interesting story just now when you were before Trump. You were on Fox News. After Trump, you were one of the first on Fox News. Yeah. Can you share with us the experience that happened?
Well, there's always these Davos moments, and I've been coming here a while, and there's always a Davos moment, or there's something that stands out. And I was invited by Fox Business News, so this is hostile territory for people like me.
Okay.
And I accepted, and the idea was that as he is speaking, I am making comments, and then at the end I have to give my reaction. So, but I think they thought I was kind of sympathizer for Mr. Trump, which I am not. And so I get in the studio, and there's someone in New York, a journalist here, and a journalist here, and they quickly discover that I'm a champion of the worker, and a champion of union rights, and a champion of a fair deal. And all of a sudden, they begin to realize that I'm not a Trump sympathizer. So I get bombarded with hostile questions. I was accused of not understanding the great things that Mr. Trump is doing. When I pointed out that the tax that the tax changes will benefit the top 1% and 80% of the income will go to the top. They scream liar. They couldn't believe that I could contradict the magical powers of Mr. Trump, and I did. And as a result of this, the fire and the fury of the interview, I'm now getting hate mail.
Okay.
So the hate mail's flowing in, and I shall wear this as a badge of honor. That's my Davos story from this afternoon.
Spoken like a true Superman of workers and union rights. But let's go to the facts.
Okay.
Trump sold reducing tax 35 to 21%.
Yeah.
And he put that in a basket where never before has any administration taken out all outdated regulations stifling growth. Now, workers like growth because, you know, they can help wealth creation better. From that perspective, how is it that you're not with him on deregulation, cutting taxes, which he claimed, and he bent it out a few times, that now companies are giving back that tax rebate that they have to the workers?
Yeah. Of course, we want to see economic growth. We want to see investment. The level of investment in the most developed economies is 15% less than it was. It's not recovered from prior to the 2007, 2008 crash. We're happy to see economic growth. We've tried to kickstart Europe by saying you have to get off the austerity package. And then his line is you cut the regulation and cut the tax and everything's going to work out. My worry about this is that the regulations he is cutting will also impact the people that he's trying to help. And therefore in healthcare, with the changes in healthcare and his attack on Obamacare, 12 million people could fall through the net. Even basic rules like an overtime rule. He has delayed an Obama rule, and it means that this will cost the American worker something like $6 billion. Even people working in restaurants, collecting the tips, have been told that this no longer belongs to you, this belongs to somebody else. They're changing regulations on health and safety, and so on and so on. And the overall cost of this, and I've spoken to the American trade union movement, they've said the system is now rigged, that it's difficult to organize and difficult to negotiate. And what the WEF are saying is that the people are suffering in this climate, and economic growth must be accompanied by other things. So economic growth has to be inclusive. And America, in the league table of inclusive growth, is number 23 out of 28. There are 40 million Americans living in poverty. So growth, yes, but if we have a continuation of the Gilded Age, just going to the 1% and the elite, the people on the floor will get even more angry and frustrated. Now the business community, we have seen bonuses being paid. I think FedEx today have said they're going to do this, but so far it's only impacting 1% of the workforce. And if we see this going into their paycheck, then of course, then we want to see their paychecks rise like this, but through, we would say, negotiation, collective bargaining, workers' voice, and that is stifled in America. Okay,
let's go for the first break. I cannot hold Superman for long, but once we are back, I want to see the part where many Malaysians might not know or really be aware that your union even helped bring cases to court. And recently, there was a big win together. I think 2 unions, yours and one more, went to court. I want you to share all these stories because maybe in the collection of many people who are not tuned to the superheroism that your union is doing, they don't see it that way. You know, it's easy to see from the 20th century perspective of unions, but here you are speaking like a member of parliament, you know, close to David Cameron's level. And let's see the other side behind the scene. Not only are you fighting on air with Fox News, but you do fight in other places that matter, like the courts, the legal system and stuff. Let's talk about that after this short break. I'm so glad I have J.Jennings here with me. He has given a very good reading of Trump. But I want to move on a bit, Lifelong learning is great. We think we know things about the union, but I want you to give us an update of the fight of the union in the 21st century. More and more fights are getting to court. That has happened in the last century, but now it's getting more sophisticated, more data and more whatever. And you and your union have won a fight in court recently, which I think is quite a landmark for this cause.
Yeah, it is. The case concerns Bangladesh. And I want your viewers to imagine a situation. You're in Dhaka. You are 3,000 people in a factory, in a garment factory. There are 3 million people in the garment sector in Bangladesh. The women working in the factory are warning the owners of the factory that this building is dangerous. They felt the walls trembling, and when the machines were working, that the walls trembled even more. On one day, the floor of the factory, which was in a multi-story building, actually fell by a number of centimeters. So the people said, this place is dangerous. We are in danger. They went on strike. And the owners of the factory said that if you don't come back to work tomorrow, you will lose your job. No job, no pay, no food, no sustenance for the family. Yeah. On Friday, April the 24th in 2013, I received a phone call that that factory had collapsed. In the space of minutes, 1,130 people, mainly women, lost their lives. And there was something like 1,000 injuries. We had discovered that in that factory, the big high street stores and chains were manufacturing clothes. They had told us that these factories were safe. They told us that their reports gave the confirmation that there was nothing to worry about. So this was a moment in my life I shall never forget. What do you do in a situation like this? You can shout, you can scream, you can protest how bad globalization is and how they treat and discard people. And we just said, we came to a decision, we were going to change the rules of the game. So what we did, in fact, was to challenge all the manufacturers in Bangladesh to sign an agreement, a legally binding agreement, that we would remediate the factories. And as part of this binding agreement, we had an arbitration clause which said that, or a legal process, that if there was an issue on remediation, because we've improved 1,000 factories down there, that we would have a kind of, not a kind of quasi-court. Okay. And that's what we did. There was one company who has to remain anonymous for legal reasons, but they refused to pay. We say, legal agreement, you refuse to pay. Have you forgotten the 1,000 people that lost their lives? So the settlement was for $2 million, $2.3 million, which is not huge in today's global economy, but it meant that what this meant was a legal obligation to do the right thing. And what we've also done, we have a team of 100 people in Bangladesh whose job it is to inspect the factories and make sure they are safe to work.
And now that's empowered by law.
And this is our agreement. Okay. The Bangladesh government were very, very nervous about this. They felt that their export market would be impacted. And what we've shown to them is that you can make social progress, you can improve conditions, and it will not be a deterrent to manufacturing in Bangladesh. But there's a very heavy political influence of the garment industry. It's not always an easy road to navigate, but we kind of stuck to our principles, and as a result, we've made health and safety conditions better. And we're in 150 countries. We're in places which are where we build unions. We build unions. This week in the West Bank in Palestine.
You built union there?
We built a union this week. Since between Sunday of last week and today, we have signed up 800 new union members in a Palestinian union in the finance sector. And we have examples like this all over the world. We have agreements with companies. In Malaysia, When you have multinational companies present, we say to them, respect the Malaysian worker. Don't use your financial power not to respect the people and make an agreement. So we make progress in Digicel, we make progress in DHL, we make progress in the multinational companies because we're a family. And I can tell you there's one word they know all around the world in uni, boleh.
Boleh.
Boleh. And Bangladesh was boleh in action.
Okay. So I want also to portray you not only as a Superman for human rights, workers' rights. I heard Sharon speak a bit, and she talks about union education as if it's not from a union person. So you're the same. So, but I have to go for the last break. Once we are back, I want you as a thought leader for my audience to think about everyone is being disrupted by the fourth industrial revolution. Every workers around the world. But I don't see much movement from within the workers themselves to organize themselves against these big new giants. If in the early, maybe 200 years ago, something like that, you have the Rockefellers of the world charting out how the supply chain of the oil and gas industry should be. Now we have the technology companies who rose overnight, suddenly got gigantic amount of power, enormous. And we don't even know what they're doing because a lot of data we do not have access to, but they have access of our data because like if you're on social media, we are parking our interactions on their platform. But what about our rights there? That's still debatable. What about our rights of our life being disrupted? And if you control the new technology platforms, you control and shape how people sleep, eat, drink also because it's very ingrained.
And
technology.
Vote. And vote.
Right. So with that, we go for the break. Once you're back, you've got to be Superman there too in the new digital economy as they call it, right after the short break. Never enough time with great people. My personal wish is for a session at the World Economic Forum to think about creating time, but we don't have it, so I'm just going to go straight to it. The new collective bargaining or whatever would have to deal with a new world. Post-fourth industrial revolution, because it's already happening, and the giants of now are the technology companies.
There will be massive transformation. Even the gurus say 350 million jobs could go, but we need to transform about 1 billion jobs. So we have this massive structural change in front of us, and the word I want to use, it's a kind of another kind of word, a company. A company. Now I know you expect us to go boleh and security and protection. What I'm saying is a company. This transformation is real. We are not doing enough to help people. I appeal to the ministers. I appeal to the business. Leave no one behind. You have to rethink again how you educate, how you prepare, and don't just discard people. We were in the Vatican just a few weeks ago talking to all the religious leaders, and it was said, think of the discard. Don't forget the discarded stones. Make them the cornerstones. So we need a clear policy to accompany people with training and wage support and so forth. The other thing is we have a new form of capitalism, digi-capitalism. 3 companies, 1 company with 2 billion people, and soon to be 3 billion people with an algorithm which is used to manipulate, to draw you in, to suck you in, so that all the data on you, your who you are is out there in the cloud, and it's worth billions. So we rose a few questions this week. What happened to antitrust? What happened to competition rules? When you talked about Rockefeller and Standard Oil, we said, at that time, Woodrow Wilson and other key leaders said, we have to avoid the economic tyranny of monopoly capitalism. So this is what's going to happen. I raised the flag here. The competition authorities have to ask the question, is it right that 97% of search engine work is in one company? Amazon has half the traffic, and that Facebook has 2 billion. So we have this new phenomenon. How do we put a human face, and how do we kind of have some more democratic control over what this means? This term of a company, I think it's a more friendlier term, but it says to all the people of the nation, I am by your side. I am going to accompany you and adjust the conditions that you can survive and thrive and give you a better quality of life. And therefore, in this new digital agenda, the unions are key. The unions are key. I was shocked. I discovered in Japan, the amount of money being spent on training is in decline. What does that mean to us? That's not accompanying people.
Yeah.
That's taking people, discarding people. So we have this appeal that about Klaus Schwab here talks about the human-centered approach and about people. It's not happening quickly enough, and the world has to find new answers to accompany people in this revolution before us. And they need social partners. They need people who can understand what's going on in the workplace, and that's why unions will thrive in this new environment.
For the Superman, I'm going to steal a few more seconds.
Okay.
I'm giving you that camera. If ever there's one thing to be taken out of this World Comic Forum of WEF 2018, for you, from your struggle and cause, to find justice for the billions of workers out there in the world, what would it be?
Okay, well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I come from a working class family. My family started with nothing, and I was given chances in my life. I had a chance to have a place to live. When I was growing up, we slept 5 in a room. My father was a factory worker. My mother was an orphan. When my mother was 3 years old, her mother died, and she was handed to a neighbor across the street because they had one space in the bed. I had public education. I could go to university. My health care was taken care of. And there was a sense of community and society, and people really cared for us. And there were people there that stood up and said, this is about us, this is about the collective and the community. Now, at this stage in my life, when I look back at those times, that sense of community and collectiveness seems to be disappearing. And therefore, in this fractured world of ours, we can confirm these fractures in terms of social, in terms of climate. So I want to take the fire, not the ashes from the past, but this sense of this fracture is real. This world needs to heal. This world needs to respect the rights of people to raise their voice, but the economic priority of just pumping the stock market is not a solution for what's on people's minds. There's a sense of anxiety and of insecurity out there, and the trade unions have an answer. We are very active in Malaysia. I love my Malaysian unions and the work that they do. There are other answers which are putting the people at the center, and I hope that we have the good sense when the doomsday clock was at 2 minutes to midnight that we can take one long reflection and stop the isolationism and give people relief from their fears and their insecurity, that we are basically for people and for planet, and never give up the hope that other solutions are available, because they are.
If I have to vote for you in anything, you already have my vote. Thank you so much.
Thank
to
you.
the Superman
Thank you.
of Union Rights.
Thank you.
We'll meet over durian and coffee in Malaysia. Boleh.
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 Terima kasih. Thanks to you
Thank
for
you.
watching. This has been a very special recording on the sidelines of the World Comic Forum. They are wrapping up the media village, but as true fighter, empathy with the workers, he's still with us, the only Malaysian media crew right here at the World Comic Forum 2018 in Davos. Goodbye.